Welcome to Excel Beyond Boundaries, where mindset meets movement, episode number 5 with Ed Akay. Ed has an extensive bio, so I want to take some time to read through this because he has done a lot. He has a range of experience, so from modeling to law school, property development to public speaking. It all started from his childhood where he was forced to develop a can-do attitude very quickly. At age 3, he recovered from paralysis, despite not being given a chance by the doctors at the time. So, a huge challenge to overcome. So, instead of focusing on that, he chose to adopt a can do attitude that he can do anything, and he ran with it, and his bio definitely reflects that. So, he graduated from Newcastle University, degree in politics and social policy, studied law at BPP Law School in Manchester, then utilized his legal training in the corporate and property development world, all kinds of experience in the professional world, corporate world. As a model, he's been featured on over 60 front covers worldwide. You go to his website, you'll see all of them. Insane, natural showman. He found his success on the public speaking circuit, winning numerous competitions, then training the former British judo champion and Exeter's first MMA fighter, Andy Costello, to become the champion speaker himself. First onto the natural bodybuilding scene in 2024 in both para and able-bodied competitions. Gold for the UK at the Natural Universe in Budapest, UK International Para Bodybuilding Championship. Silver of the UK at the World Natural Bodybuilding Championship in Netherlands. Competitor in 3 Masters Physique competitions, including the World Championship and the UK International Championship. Wow. And currently available for public speaking and modeling engagements. So I'll post those links below. Welcome, Ed. I appreciate you taking the time to join me today. Where are you currently?
I'm in southwest England, Jonathan, and thank you very much for having me. It's a real honour. My wife's a huge fan of your state. I've always wanted to go. I love Miami-based music. So yeah, I'm based in southwest England. Nearest city is called Exeter. It's not going to be very well known stateside, but best way to describe southwest England, it's our version of the Midwest. Very rural, and it's as far as the UK goes. There's a lot of land basically, but not very many
Nice.
houses. So yeah, it's
Sounds
our
beautiful.
Midwest. But it's very very scenic. But you've got to drive. We do not rely on public transport down here.
I understand. That makes sense with the mid being reflective of the Midwest. A lot of driving to get to any destinations. Is fitness big over there?
Definitely, actually, rugby's probably the most popular sport. Obviously, our English national game is soccer, but the soccer team's not very good. But the rugby team is really good. It's in our top tier division, and I definitely say general gym fitness is pretty big as well. Gyms are popping up everywhere, and also with it there being a lot of wealth in the southwest, people retire here. There's lots of home gyms as well. I mean, I have a home gym. The people next door to me have a home gym. So it's pretty big, especially as knowledge of fitness and nutrition expands.
That's awesome. It's really inspiring to see how big fitness has gotten in various countries because I know my dad's from Greece and 10 years ago, 15 years ago when we would go there, fitness wasn't as popular. There weren't any gyms. Maybe you might find one if you were lucky. And now, there's CrossFit gyms in Greece. It's blown up, and it's just cool to see the fitness industry blowing up and uniting, and how I can talk to you overseas and hear your fitness journey. It's a beautiful thing.
No,
That's
definitely. And
awesome.
can I say, actually, I went to Saloniki about 10 years ago, got really happy memories of it, in fact. Really, really great historic city over in Greece. One of my favourite ever holidays, actually. I went there randomly and, yeah, never forgotten it. Completely unique place.
Very beautiful over there, and I really want to come to the UK. I hear it's beautiful as well.
I mean, I am very biased. I would say the southwest is the best part, but joking aside, I'd recommend going to. Obviously, you've got to go to London. All tourists go to London. I wouldn't necessarily want to live there, but it's great to visit. Manchester's another amazing city. All my immediate family lived in Manchester in their formative years, and yeah, definitely check out the countryside as well. You'll see a lot of Robin Hood-esque scenery.
I like that. I'm definitely going to keep that in mind. So I'll start with this. What does fitness mean to you, and what inspired you to begin your fitness journey?
I kind of view fitness as almost the equivalent of like a job. I view it as essential. It's something you just have to do, basically. You have to do it to ensure long term health. Now, in the UK, we do have our NHS, but that's getting overburdened. So, trust me, it's a good thing to invest in when our waiting lists are getting pretty high. So, I view it as essential for life, essentially. What inspired me? Well, if I'm honest, Jonathan, I didn't really have much choice. When I was 3, I got paralysed with a neurological disorder. It was called Guillain-Barré syndrome. I didn't get given much of a chance to recover. I got told I was never going to walk again, but my dad refused to accept that. My dad basically learnt about triggering nerve growth. This is what it was essentially about, getting my nerves to grow again. So when I started developing basic movement, my dad read up on nerve growth and read if you get someone to be aggressive and get someone aggravated, their nerves get stimulated. And this was based on research done by an Italian doctor who got rats and mice to become aggressive and watch their, if you like, the response rates of their nerves. So what my dad did, if you like, forced me to get into fitness from when I was in a wheelchair, aged about 3. He made me watch fights of this man here, Mike Tyson, who, as a very, very, very shocking coincidence, actually won the World Heavyweight Championship the very year I got paralysed, 1986. So he would put on Mike Tyson in the background, make me hit a punch bag very aggressively. And gradually, my movement improved, my coordination improved. I gradually, learned to walk again by effectively doing really intense exercise. So that was my introduction to fitness, literally a survival mechanism. It's also worth saying this as well. Your governor, Ron DeSantis, is quite famous in the UK. He's known as the anti-woke governor. Well, my dad jokes, if Ron DeSantis was the anti-woke governor, I was the anti-woke therapist. He's getting me to be aggressive as a very, very old school, shall we say, an old school method. He also very
Man,
significantly didn't register me as disabled or physically challenged because he didn't want me to use it as an excuse not to do stuff. And it was a much different era from what today's like, where there's less understanding. That was pretty controversial in itself, actually, at the time. But anyway, my dad's methods worked. Whilst I do remain partially paralysed in my left foot, I've always played able-bodied athletics up until more recently. Actually, I've also done some para-athletics, which I'm sure we'll get into later on. And yeah, I actually owe fitness a lot. It helped me walk, gave me a sense of self-worth, and it helped me prove a lot of doubters wrong, Jonathan. So, in a nutshell, necessity, really.
wow, I love that. And that is such a powerful story. It's interesting how the year that you said Mike Tyson won the heavyweight title was the year that you were using that aggression, watching him to gain your nerve growth back. And that's fascinating. I didn't know that aggression caused nerves to grow. That is so interesting.
No, yeah, it was based on research from an Italian doctor who was actually interesting, a Holocaust survivor as well. In later life, this doctor became an Italian senator, so she was very well respected in her country. And yes, she did a lot of research. And my dad, who was originally from the Turkish military, but as he grew older, he later became an academic. So he did have some science basis. He did research just in scientific journals. He was very much at odds with, shall we say, the doctors of the time who just wanted me, what of a better word, just to do nothing and just accept defeat. But he really refused that. And so, if you like, I got given a lesson in old school mindset quickly. And my dad actually says, now he used to antagonize. Put this in context, you're antagonizing a kid in a wheelchair to become aggressive. It wasn't fun for my dad. People might actually say it was pretty cruel in some ways. It was very cruel to be kind. But he viewed it like this. It was far better than getting me to have a lifetime of having a victim mentality. And I will say
100%.
this as well, Jonathan. this isn't going to be music to everyone's ears. Not everyone's going to approve of my dad's methods, but they work for me, and they made me the person I am today.
Absolutely. Wow. That is a lot to take in.
Tell me
I'm
about it.
still, man, fascinated by the fact that, well, first of all, it's amazing that your dad stepped outside of the box and thought for himself and did the research and found the studies and applied it to you. I can imagine how uncomfortable all of that was to make his child at that age, you know, to be aggressive, how uncomfortable that was. And he took all those chances at that such an impressionable young age. And it's beautiful that it worked and fascinating that it worked. And for you to have overcome that and develop, the discipline, the mentality, the can-do attitude at that early age, man, there's so many areas to touch on. Thank you for sharing that.
I'm very blessed, actually. And I'd say, actually, as well, that I'm very blessed that I had good parental role models, because both my parents are from working class backgrounds. They're from utter poverty. My dad's from third world poverty. My mum's from, if you like, a place similar to Detroit, really, in England. So it was very much a multicultural poverty exchange, but they kind of worked their way up. So I was very blessed to have them as good role models from the start. It may have been very different. My life would have been very different if my family didn't have a work ethic. So I do feel very privileged in that way.
Absolutely. Wow. No, it definitely sounds like your family worked hard and did their best and helped you with adopting your mindset. And that mindset has definitely played a role in your success because you've done so much. Yeah, when I read your bio, it was like one thing after the other. Very impressive. What would you say if you could describe your fitness journey in one word? What would you say that would be?
Life changing. Well,
Life
actually, in one
change.
word, intense. Intense. Because it was literally
Intense.
from, as I mentioned, it's from the get go, really. My fitness journey pretty much started as a survival tool. And actually, when I kind of recommenced it in later life through my great trainer, Matt, or Matthew White of MW Strength and Performance, it was more for, if you like, coping with lockdown boredom initially. I resumed my fitness journey during lockdown after a couple of years of staying in shape but not being in amazing shape. But yeah, it's just been intense, and I've had it in my blood.
But yes, to start at 3 years old. Not many children start, a fitness journey at 3 years old. That's definitely intense. What is your fundamental why, would you say? I know you kind of touched on certain aspects of this, but if you had to sum it up, what is your purpose for training? More so survival and, functionality, or has it changed over the years?
I mean, I just see it as a necessity, really, because if you look at it like this, I'm talking from a UK perspective. The population is ageing as a whole in the UK. Our NHS waiting lists are going up. That's our National Health Service. So it's kind of, I think it's very important to look after yourself while you can to ensure long term you're not going to have lots of health problems. I mean, my family, they're still active aged 80, and their healths are very good for their respective ages, my parents. And I think as well, I'm 41. I've seen lots of people of a similar age to me whose health has already started deteriorating. They sort of serve as a reminder to what can happen if you don't make fitness a necessity. Because it is, and people should almost view fitness as part of a job, almost. And that's how I
I
see it.
completely agree. It should be like brushing your teeth. It's a
Yeah,
part of the lifestyle for the mental and physical health benefits. Prevents people from getting sick, like with the strengthened immune system, everything. It's crazy. Everybody needs it. I love that you said that. This is a random question, but what would you say is one fitness myth that you've encountered that either you or people believe that has now been debunked? Like, have you ever been told some bad fitness advice?
yeah, definitely. Right now, I'm going to give people a bit of a story about 90s UK high school education. We basically got taught in the 1990s in UK high schools fat is bad, carbohydrates fine. And it's so primitive, basically, such a primitive way of looking at it because we got told you must avoid fat at all costs without sort of, explaining the differences, why, getting your calories to a mix of carbohydrate and fat actually is a good thing. We just got told about how bad fat was, but didn't get told much about the dangers of eating too much carbohydrate.
That's
And
true.
that was one of the worst ever pieces of nutrition advice I've ever received in my life. But you learn, and it's completely insane that was actually taught in schools as pretty mainstream. Imagine basically get given like a fact sheet with like an X crossed over fat, just telling you how bad it is, and there's got no merit to it. And then, yeah, carbohydrates fine. Eat loads of bread, yeah, that's fine. But you must avoid peanuts. Stupid.
That's
Completely stupid.
funny. So funny. Yes, we had a similar, pushing of agenda where like the health pyramid we had with the branding of our, nutritional like ideal diet. It was grains and bread at the bottom, and I remember it was just completely out of order. And it's funny because then there was the trend of them pushing butter was bad and that we had to use canola oil or vegetable oil and the canola oil health craze, which is, terrible for you. And it's just so funny how I mean it's not funny, but it's strange how corrupt it is and how it trickles down into the misinformation. So crazy. Wow.
And I mean, funnily enough, actually, somebody who's trying to lose weight sent me something they got given by our National Health Service. And it was talking about nutrition, and it was like explaining the basic food groups, and it was just basically encouraging people essentially just to eat lots of carbohydrate. That was the gist of it. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is on like a health website. What is the agenda here? What contractor's written this? What manufacturer of high carbohydrate foods written this for you? Come on, come clean.
So corrupt. Yes, no, it's a shame. It really is.
Definitely.
What would you say is some advice for those struggling with self-doubt or a lack of motivation since you've experienced so much?
Yeah, of course. As I said before, my coach Matt, he'll be watching this later on, always said to me, you didn't really have to get coached much on mindset, Ed, because of your shall we say, odd upbringing. However, he did teach me a lot about visualization. It's a tactic he uses on his clients who maybe aren't as motivated as myself. So, for instance, say if he was training a bodybuilding client, he might say to them, visualize yourself on a stage in 6 months' time. How are you going to look? And that's your end goal. So I would say learn to visualize. Other exact thing that can be quite helpful is if you have a particular look you want to achieve body-wise, get a picture of, say, a fitness model who looks similar or a celebrity and stick it on your fridge, because that's really good for diet discipline, apparently.
True. No, that makes sense. I like that, how you would look at the big picture and remember ultimately what you're training for and find your motivation from within that, and then have a daily reminder, something you can look at to remind you of that. I like that. Very practical.
Definitely, and I'm very blessed actually to know Matt, actually, who's an absolute genius when it comes to stuff like that.
Good. No, it sounds like you have a great coach. And actually, that leads me into a nice segue. Are you currently training for something in particular? And what is your preferred training style?
Sure. Well, this year I had a lot of success on the natural bodybuilding circuit. I won the natural universe in Budapest in the para category, got a world silver medal as well, also competed as an able-bodied athlete as well on the world stage. And
Nice.
what it will basically mean is next year in November, we're going to be going over to Vegas to the Natural Olympia, which is the highest pinnacle of natural bodybuilding.
Well, yeah, that's huge. That's
So
exciting.
yeah, what I'm doing at the moment is I'm in a calorie surplus, which does feel a real novelty at the moment, because obviously I'm used to being in a deficit for a lot of the year. I'm on about
Yeah.
4,000 calories a day, and I'm just putting size on because I tend to win the competitions based on shred more than I do size. So I'm not the biggest of people. I mean, you've seen my pics. I'm not like a massive guy. For your viewers, I'm like very much like a super middleweight boxer in my aesthetic. I'm about, my cut weight's about 78 kilos, super middleweight boxer. So not
Okay.
massive by any means, and I tend to win on shred. But there's obviously the problem if somebody is more stacked than me and also got similar shred, then I'm screwed. So I'm putting on a bit of size.
I see. To set yourself apart even more. So you're
Yeah.
bulking, and then when will you start cutting?
Well, so what we're going to do is this. I'm going to be doing, I've got a 4 week off season between now and early January. Then I'm going to go get back on the competition circuit for the end of May. I'll probably start the outright cutting bit after doing, some more bulking and some what's called the maintenance part. We reckon that the cut for May will start, say, Aprilish, maybe late March. So
Okay.
basically about 8 weeks out, because I think the comp's at the end of May, the first comp. Um, so that's the plan really. But I am enjoying actually being in that calorie surplus because with the modelling, I do use a lot of energy if you like being in that deficit. And in terms of my training, actually, at the moment, I'm just doing your standard straight sets. And with it being the off season, I'm lifting heavier, doing about 8 reps in total. And in the cutting
Wow.
phase, I tend to sort of do something called weighted circuits. You ever heard of weighted circuits?
Is that more so just like circuit training or, supersets, more conditioning
Yeah,
style?
very similar. It is effectively circuit trained just with weight space that, you set the weights up so they're very near each other. And then you basically just do a circuit with minimal rest time. But I do like supersets, Jonathan, by the way, a lot because I'm quite impatient by nature. I don't like resting too long, so I do like my supersets.
That's funny. Yeah, very efficient. Do things back to back. The rep range, I'm curious. You said you're doing mostly 8 reps, focusing on bulking. Do you get more in that muscle growth range of like 8 to 12, closer to the, mid bulk, or when do you get more into like the 8 to 12 range?
Oh, sure, yeah. At the moment, yeah.
I mean,
No, that's a good question, actually. So on the off season, it's 8 to 10 reps. Come January, it's going to be going into the 12 rep range, which that'll be in about January.
okay.
That'll be, if you like, phase one of the prep. This is classed as my off season where the diet's a little less strict. But yeah, come January, it'll be the 8 to 12, probably even 10 to 12 even. So really now's
I
the time for me to
see.
put on the size.
I see. That's interesting. And it sounds like you have everything perfectly planned out. And I'm excited to watch your journey and see everything unfold for you.
Yeah, well,
That's
Matt's
exciting.
masterminded it. He's me and him have worked together for 4 years. We both know my body really well, how I respond to things, what I don't respond to that well, and I did exactly the same last year, around this time last year. But obviously, as you get more information, you fine tune it more, so we know what works.
Oh, yeah, definitely. No, that's good. It's a constant process of refining. And obviously, you know exactly what you're doing because you've won all these competitions, which is very impressive. So
Well, thank you
that's
very much.
you're welcome. That's very cool. Do you have any like pre-workout rituals or anything you do before, to help yourself get in the zone? Or do you practice the visualizations you were mentioning?
Sure. Well, what I tend to do actually before I work out, I have a kind of relentless energy drink, which is a natural energy drink. It's quite big in the UK at the moment. It gives me a really, really good kick, and it kind of gets me quite hyped to do it. And very much, I train first thing in the morning. I'm very much a morning person. I tend to get up about 5 a.m., go to my very cold garage gym, and just literally just get on with it.
That's awesome. And I was
I
actually gonna
like.
ask. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Jonathan.
No, no, I was just gonna say, you answered another question, which was perfect. I was gonna ask you if you're a morning person or an afternoon person for workouts. Because I've noticed it's like a 50-50 split. Some people like the evening, some people like the morning. Personally, I'm with you. The morning, I feel like, is the best time, for sure.
And also, as well, in the morning, the testosterone levels naturally are higher. So that's how I sort of see it. Your testosterone levels are higher. And once you've got it out the way, you're not going to procrastinate. Whilst if you're doing it at night, there's more time to procrastinate. So I just view it like that, really. It's more about the efficiency of it all.
Oh, absolutely. 100% agree with all of that. It's after a full day of, hard work and making decision fatigue and everything. It's much more challenging to, in my opinion, to get into a very intense workout And then also you potentially get less benefit because of what you said, less hormonal response, and it may affect your sleep too, to have deep sleep because it's such within that window of bed.
You're completely spot on. If I worked out at night, I wouldn't sleep. I've actually did a bit of an experiment once. Actually, I actually tried working out in the evening just as a one-off, and like my performance was poor in comparison, definitely poor. I just felt tired, basically. I mean, obviously it is tiring getting up first thing, but it's even more tiring doing it at the end of the day. Yeah.
Oh, yes, no, completely agree. Some people love it, but I personally don't understand that.
No.
What if you could create, this is more of a fun and creative question, but if you could create your own signature workout, what would it be generally? You don't have to get into exact exercises as much, but generally what would it be and what would it be called?
Okay, I'd call it the Akay superset, and it's basically doing a bench press immediately followed by one arm bench rows. The reason I do that particular superset is I have a rotator cuff injury that reoccurs, and I find if I do a bench press that puts stress on a rotator cuff, but if I do like a one arm bench row straight after, it pulls it back. It's like a physics sort of thing. So I found that really was good for helping me keep my rotator cuff in place.
So then just to confirm, so a set of bench press and then a single arm dumbbell row or upright
Yeah,
or vertical upright row.
one arm bench row. Yeah, with on the very much so. And the main thing is one of them puts tension on the rotator cuff, the other, if you like, takes it away by pulling it back. And that actually really helped me with injury prevention over the years. Before, I used to keep on getting injured in my rotator cuff. And I found that particular superset really helped me. I don't think I've actually done a straight bench press for years now, for not at least 2 or 3 years.
Wow, that's a good idea, the push-pull. Great balance. It seems like a lot of people that are newer to the industry or have, that high school weightlifting mentality, a lot of times they'll neglect their back and they'll just work out their chest so much, and they get that internal rotation, and then 9 out of 10 times shoulder pain. So it's cool that you've learned from
I've learned the hard
how.
way.
Yes, yes, definitely. That's good though. What would you say is the strangest piece of fitness advice you've ever received?
Well, looking back on it, actually, I would probably say that nutrition rubbish we got given in the 90s is very strange, especially in terms of workout advice. I've seen some pretty pretentious stuff come and go over the years. Like, I remember one person said to me, you shouldn't do free weights, you should just do machines. That was a bit of a strange one. Don't do free weights, just do machines. And I said, all right, what's the logic there? Surely you can do both, and they both have a place. It goes, oh no, machines keep your muscle in place more. Well, that might be technically true, but the fact that you're using free weights means you have more control, so you develop balance, and they obviously have more impacts. You feel the impact more. But yeah, that was someone who was very stuck in their ways. Never heard anything as strange as that, to be honest.
I know what you mean. So many people have different mentalities from their training style, and I've heard that one before as well. But interesting. And I agree. The free weights definitely builds that functionality, which is important for sure. For diet, I wanted to ask you, so do you have any specific diets you follow or any special, if so, any special recipes that you like?
No, sure. Well, at the moment, I'm on my stack diet, which is basically your dad will probably relate to this. Both Greece and Turkey have very similar cuisines, which is often a lot of it is often grilled meat and rice. At the moment, I'm having mainly beef and rice, and I'm obviously putting in seasoning. It reminds me a lot of the food in Greece and Turkey. I'm on 4,000 calories a day, mainly from beef protein, 5% fat protein, and rice with some veg mixed in. And when I'm in the cut part, I tend to have turkey and veg carbs. In terms of any particular recipes, what I tend to do is actually make doner kebab, sorry, shish kebab, which is basically just grilled meat with rice, and it's a perfect bodybuilding food, really, because shish kebab's lean meat anyway by default. You can have it as chicken or turkey.
Yeah.
And yeah, you cannot go wrong on the stack phase by having it. But yeah, do avoid Donna. That was bad advice there. Forget I said that.
No worries. That sounds good. And it sounds healthy. Do you have any favorite cheat meals that you incorporate?
Yeah, I have protein ice cream actually at the weekends, as long as it's low sugar. I have a general rule actually with diets that I don't really touch food that has more than 5 grams of sugar per 100 grams. That's another golden nugget Matt taught me. And it's something that I've really stuck to since. So in the
I
UK,
like that.
yeah, even our budget supermarkets, like Lidl is one of them. I don't know if that's a thing at States of it. It's a German supermarket chain. They're doing protein ice cream now of low sugar. So that's what I tend to do on cheat days. And also as well, I think on cheat days, if you base your cheat meal around protein, it kind of has some benefit. I avoid stuff like pizza, for instance, because that doesn't really benefit me whatsoever. But say having burgers, that has some sort of nutritional benefit to my training.
I see. So a protein focus above all, and then less sugar. It can't break that rule of having too much sugar per serving.
Yeah, because I don't like getting the. I mean, I've lost the taste for it now, and I kind of don't really want to get a taste for it. Um, it was funny actually. Before I got back into this during lockdown, I didn't really eat badly before. The main sort of bad thing I did was drink beer. Now, I stopped drinking beer about 4 years ago. On like the weekend, I'd have whiskey instead, and that is a massive game changer, believe you me. I'm not suggesting you should overindulge in whiskey, but believe you me, the effect on your body is not half as much as, say, if you were drinking beer. The way whiskey affects your body, it's not visibly obvious in the way, say, beer would. You don't get, say, whiskey bloat like you do beer bloat.
Really? So that's interesting. So is that do you think that's more so the volume, like drinking, or do you think it's more so just the direct calories?
As a general rule, spirits are recommended for people who want to lose weight. And because you drink less of them generally, you're going to consume less calories. And the way beer is as well, it's a very calorific drink, because it's effectively just liquid bread, really.
True, true. Barley, that's true.
Yeah.
Huh.
I did
Grains.
absolutely love it though, believe you me. I'm glad I stopped. I stopped at the right time.
You've got some good beer over there too in the UK, right? Well, and good spirits.
Yeah, definitely. But I would say this, my favourite spirit is American bourbon. I love your Buffalo Trace and I love your Jack Daniels.
Those are good. Those are very popular brands here, for sure.
Absolutely gorgeous. I mean, God, it made me give up beer. So God bless you, America. Thank God for bourbon.
I like that. Helped you give up beer. Man. I know you've traveled a little bit. What is your favorite gym that you've ever been to? And worldwide, this could be anywhere.
Worldwide. Okay, I mean, to be honest, I actually train mainly in a home gym. But worldwide, I'd actually probably say the best place I've ever worked out was a gym called bit of a funny comical name, Men at Work. It's got quite a village people sounding name, Men at Work, but it was in this really rough part of northeast England.
Men at work.
Yeah, and it was old, it was gritty, but there was a lot of respect there. And I am not a fan of overly comfy gyms because I think if you have too much comfort, you are disincentivized from working out. My home gym is a bloody cold garage, really uncomfy, but that incentivizes me to work out. If I'm in the spa or some posh gym, I ain't going to want to work out. I'm going to want to relax. I think discomfort is good.
I really like that point. That is a very powerful point. If a gym is too comfortable, you see people sitting on their phones or socializing. You're right, it's disincentivizing. But if it's cold or hot or just metal everything, you get in, you get the work done, and you get out.
Very much
I
so. I
like that.
always like visualize, Rocky and getting up early in that grey tracksuit when he used to go out for his runs around Philadelphia. That's very much me in the winter. I have this like grey tracksuit actually, which I actually do wear. Go to my garage gym and start working out first thing pretty much in the utter freezing cold because there's no heating
How
in my garage.
how cold is it?
At the moment, we're talking about for about 4 degrees in the morning, 3 degrees, but in the winter it can get to, sort of zero, depending on how cold January is, especially. The weather's getting very erratic, actually. I mean, I live by the coast, so in the winter it's extra cold in comparison with the rest of England anyway.
Oh, okay, and that's Celsius. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
yeah,
Yeah.
Celsius, yeah.
Okay, still that's really cold. That's freezing for sure. Man, wow. Working out in that cold temperature, I can't imagine. Up here in Florida, it's the coldest it gets is in like the 40s typically, and that's, for a day or two with a cold front. Typically our winters are 60s if we're lucky, 70s. So I can't
Wow.
imagine that. But yeah.
I mean, my wife preferred your climate to the English climate. England, it rains. It rains a lot and it's cold. It's a colder country, really. Ultimately, Florida's it's a tropical place in comparison.
That's true. And I've heard that it rains there often, but there is something nice about the rain. We get a lot of rain here with the cloudiness, the overcast of England. I feel like it's cozy. It kind of forces you to relax and live in the moment more and reflect on things and be more introspective. That's kind of cool. Kind of like Seattle in the
Oh, wow,
Northwest.
yeah, no, that's an interesting comparison. In fact, in terms of when I went to the States, the place that reminded me the most of England was actually Boston. It's a very European city. The way it is, it reminded me a lot of Europe and England. I mean, I suppose it used to be called New England, that area.
Yes, no, that actually makes sense. It's known as New England as well
Yeah,
today. That whole region is called New England.
yeah, Massachusetts and New England's like a sub place in it, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, and tracing it back, it was originally called New England because it represented New England from the settlers. So that's interesting that it reflects England. That's cool. I love history.
Not me as well.
Oh yeah, no, it's really fascinating how it really paved the way for everything. History and repeats itself in many ways. What would you say your ideal fitness adventure or challenge would look like? I know you enjoy the bodybuilding and the functional side. If you were going to choose an adventure or fitness challenge, what would it look like?
Well, I would obviously say go to the Natural Olympia next year, but just for variation, I'd actually probably say if I was going to do another sport, I'm English, I love soccer or football as we call it, but I'm going to call it soccer for the benefit of your viewers. It would be probably, going to the Soccer World Cup. That would be ideal, playing for England in the Soccer World Cup. It's not going to happen, but that would be ideal. It's very much a dream for every English person to do that. It's a national craze. It's like someone from the US playing in the Super Bowl, really.
It's a good comparison. It's I forgot how popular soccer was in England,
I mean, you
and
can't
that's
get away
cool.
from it, literally.
Oh
Near impossible to get away from. And you know what?
yeah,
Your women's football team's really famous in England. They're really famous. The American women's football. It gets a lot of press coverage.
interesting. Huh.
American women's soccer. I mean, yeah, our media gave them a lot of coverage.
I didn't
What was
know
she
that.
called? Megan Rapinoe, I think she was called.
I'm not even sure. But yeah, I'm not even sure. I should know more about soccer. My dad being from Greece, I grew up, he was always watching soccer and then, football as well, but soccer was his thing. So I should know more, but I can't really remember too much. Huh. It's interesting how each culture has their own, sport that draws all the attention.
No, very
Mostly
much
soccer.
so. In fact,
Yeah.
actually, I've got a very fond memory of Greece soccer because in 2004 they actually won the European Championship, and it was like a real big thing at the time. It was like a real underdog achievement, like an outsider team just becoming European champions. So I've got very fond
I
memories of your national team.
I remember that. That was the last time I was in Greece. I was, I think, 16. Yeah, 16. I remember everyone was going crazy and they were celebrating in the streets, honking their horn. It was insane. I remember that. What would you say, or who would you say would be someone you would want to work out with? Either a celebrity or if you could work out with anyone, any time period, who would you choose?
I mean, one of them would be Mike Tyson, but I'll give someone a bit less a little less well known. He had a film made about him. Have you ever seen a movie called The Fighter? Mark Wahlberg stars in it. It's about a boxer.
Yes, yes, I have.
My ideal person to work out of would be Mickey Ward, who is the boxer that Mark Wahlberg portrays. He's actually from Lowell, which is like near Boston. The reason I'm choosing Mickey Ward is that he really, really grafted to win his, I think it was the WBF like welterweight championship. He'd been around as a journeyman fighter for many years, and he kind of reached his peak a lot older, and he got there on the grounds of discipline and heart, essentially. You know, he had decent fighting skills, but there were better technical boxers in his day. And I just love his spirit. I love how he persevered. And to somebody like myself who's really had to graft and persevere, Mickey Ward is one of my heroes. So I'd love to work out with Mickey Ward.
I see. You have a lot in common with him, it sounds like, and those are good choices. Both boxers, so I see that you really do enjoy boxing. And would you say that's because of it's what got you started into, changing your life and getting into fitness, starting at 3, 4 years old with more so that?
I think you've hit the nail on the head. I've got a lot of I get on socially well actually with professional fighters as well. And I think, yeah, I've got a bit of emotional attachment to boxing because my granddad actually as well, who had an issue with his leg as well, was a boxing champion. So I've always related a lot to the sport. Now, I've never actually done it competitively. It's a sport I've got a lot of respect for. And I actually find a lot of the people that get attracted to boxing quite similar to those who go into bodybuilding because they're both lonely sports. You know, they're loner sports, really. And you have to be a certain type of person to do them. They're very different from, say, the people drawn to rugby or soccer, the people they attract. And I
Oh yeah,
definitely,
definitely.
yeah, I definitely relate more to the sort of, if you like, the disciplined loner, if you like.
You like more individual.
Definitely. I'm a complete
I
individual.
I completely relate. Completely. I get that. Some people like more team, collaboration. Other people like more lone wolf, just them doing them. I understand that for sure. For a random question, but when you're working out, what kind of music do you listen to? Do you have a specific go-to song that really gets you pumped up?
Well, as I grew up on hip hop music, I did love Miami bass in the 90s. One of my favourite groups was actually the Two Live Crew, who were from Florida, very controversial in their day. I'm not going to say their lyrics on your podcast because I don't want to get you cancelled. I actually have a good. I like to think I've got quite a good musical knowledge of hip hop. I listened a lot to Public Enemy, to NWA. It was actually my daddy got me into Public
Nice.
Enemy. Anything
That's
that's
cool.
aggressive and old school hip hop, I absolutely love. I have a bodybuilding friend called Johnny, who's like a men's physique champion over in the UK. He's got a fantastic physique, and he's also really into his hip hop. And he sends me new hip hop songs to work out to. Uh, Artist who I've really got into this year is a guy called Cool G Rap, who was very much from hip hop's golden age. He's still going today. He's had a very strong underground presence. In terms of my favourite hip hop song of all time, I'm going to go with something a little less well known. It's probably My Uzi Ways a Ton by Public Enemy. The beat's very, very heavy, very hard hitting, and it's perfect for getting me pumped up early in the morning when I'm wanting just to hit the weights. And I feel very honoured actually to have grown up in the 90s when, in my view, hip hop was the absolute best. Better than what you might
Yes.
call mumble rap.
Man, don't even get me started. His hip hop was the best. That's my go-to as well. I don't know that song. I'm gonna look that up. But yeah, the rappers today, for sure. A lot of
Who was
mumble
your
rappers.
favourite? Who's your favourite Jonathan from the 90s?
I would say I like Tupac.
I love
Tupac,
Tupac.
Biggie, but Tupac he had so much his lyrics had so much meaning and the way he flowed. He was so rhythmic and it was almost like you can kind of get into like a trance. And I swear I've listened to every Tupac song.
I'm a huge Tupac fan as well. I mean, another thing I really like about him, and you've identified that very well, Jonathan, is that the lyrics were very good. He was also extremely versatile. Like he could do the gangster stuff. He also did some quite deep political stuff. Like look at Brenda's Got a Baby. Got a
Yes.
pretty strong political message. Keep your head up. Strong political message.
Yes.
And I think like Dear Mama is a really beautiful song. You know, the one who wrote about his mum was a really lovely song. There's a real kindness about his voice, I always find. There's a warmth and kindness to it. I don't know. I think that's what That's what really drew me to him.
Definitely the genuine, you can feel the emotion through his music, and I feel like the best music, you can feel their emotions. It's
Definitely.
powerful, for sure. That's funny. I didn't know you were so into 90s hip hop.
I mean, I'm very blessed to have grown up in that decade because, like, the flow had developed a lot since the 80s, but it hadn't got into mumble rap then. And so you sort of, you could actually understand what they were saying. And it was a very
Yes.
creative time. And I've got to say as well, before council culture, it was good sort of seeing gangster rap in its heyday. I can't really imagine stuff like that coming out now.
Yes, that's true. Things have changed so much. Even commercials, everything. It's insane. But it does seem like things are starting to become more, I'll say, rational. Like the
Yeah,
extremes have kind of leveled out, which is nice.
definitely.
And also, it helps that Europe doesn't support anything too extreme. And so when America gets a little crazy, the rest of the world, kind of, I don't want to say, I don't know how to put that, but you know what I'm saying.
Oh, no, exactly what you mean. It's funny, actually. I was chatting on another podcast about how the UK essentially, we tend to like boring politicians. I mean, I don't necessarily like our Prime Minister. He's boring, basically, Keir Starmer. Whilst in America, your politicians, shall I say, are more colourful, more fun, is the word to describe it.
That's the perfect way to describe it. That's funny. Yeah, I feel like in America there's the extremes with everything, and the rest of the world is more traditional in a
Yeah.
sense. Definitely. Huh. I like how we've touched on such a wide range of subjects.
No, I mean, I think it's great actually because, like, whilst it's essentially a fitness podcast, I did my research. You've done a lot of your life, so I kind of thought we would actually, and as I said before, it's privileged to be interviewed by a Guinness World Record holder.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. I am passionate about this podcast being a foundation to unite the fitness industry and share people's stories. And it's just so cool how I found you in a Facebook group, podcast Facebook group, and you live in the UK, and then me being in Florida. It's just amazing how the world is so united with social media.
Very much
It's
so.
beautiful.
And I think, and it's great, and it's funny actually because this is the second podcast I've done based in Florida. I mean, you're a very enterprising state, definitely.
Huh. I never thought of Florida as an enterprising state, but that makes sense. It's a little different than, well, all of the U.S. is so different, but
Definitely.
Florida definitely, it definitely seems more, how do I put this, innovative than other
Yeah,
states,
it has
not as
that rep in the
traditional.
UK.
That's cool to hear. So, the UK, certain states have certain reputations?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, I joked about him earlier, but your governor got a lot of press in the UK, partly because there's intrigue, because he wouldn't exist in the UK. Ron DeSantis, someone like that wouldn't get elected in the UK because people are more cautious. But he got a lot of media coverage, put it that way. And he's a very interesting guy. Actually, he's had an interesting career background. I mean, he made my dad laugh anyway. So and yeah, it's perceived definitely as quite an enterprising place.
That's fascinating. It's just funny how the whole world is watching, with how connected the world is. It's interesting to think other countries are still watching our political, moves, basically. That's really interesting. Huh.
You're a superpower. You lead, the world follows. And I think it's inevitable that whatever happens in the superpower, people are going to be watching because it has a knock-on effect to other countries. I mean, and us especially, because obviously we share your language, we share a lot of the heritage, and you're our closest ally. And they always say anything that starts in America ends up in England regardless.
True, true. It's very cool how when I was in Greece, it did seem like the trends would start in America and then it would spread through Europe. So I remember watching MTV Europe in my a relative's house in Greece, middle of the day when it was really hot, and we would see, the most popular songs, and then we would start seeing the trends, the influences on the culture, and yeah, it was really interesting. And then there was a period of time when, I mean, Greece is always friendly, it's always hospitable, but there was a period of time where they weren't as friendly, well, not the people, but more so the women didn't really like American guys. They weren't as I mean, it seemed like, in my perception, I remember they were everyone was very open, but then there was a period of time when the girls just seemed like they just wanted to talk to, Greek guys. They weren't like Americans weren't as cool, it seemed like. Maybe this is just my perception, but it seemed like there was a period of time when it was more so, I don't know. It's just interesting how trends.
No, that's quite interesting, actually. I find, over in Greece, definitely they're warmer than English people by a mile. As a general rule, the Mediterranean area, they are warmer than Brits. Turks are warmer than Brits, a lot more tactile. It's maybe just a Mediterranean thing. I'd say definitely English people could be classed as colder in comparison with, say, places like Spain, Greece, Turkey, possibly a cultural thing, I suppose.
Definitely. And you said your father was from Turkey, is that correct?
Yeah, some Turkey came over to England in the 60s. Um, he basically served in the Cold War in the Turkish military, and he ended up becoming a distinguished professor of chemical engineering. So he went from, if you like, poverty to the military and then into academia in later life. And he's always enjoyed visiting Greece himself. Because really, the cuisine's identical to Turkish cuisine, but it's a different brand. And
Yes,
they're
yes.
not a million miles off, the two countries. Obviously, one's Muslim, the other's Christian, but I definitely see the cultural similarities completely. In fact, the founding father of modern Turkey, Ataturk, was born in Saloniki in Greece, so there's a lot of shared heritage.
I didn't know that, but yeah, the food definitely. The Greek coffee, Turkish coffee, baklava, they argue who had it first.
Yeah,
All the little things. That's funny. Yeah, your last name is Turkish, right?
yeah, that's correct. Yeah, typical Turkish surname, really. And I recognised your surname as well. So having been to Greece, I recognise the sort of the OS, if you like. AY is a very Turkish thing. For instance, like OS, I recognise as being quite Greek.
Yes, yes. That's funny. We're neighbors.
Very much
Neighbors.
so.
Definitely. Just a couple more questions.
Sure.
If you could give one piece of advice to someone starting their fitness journey, what would you say?
I would say this: you are the average of the 5 people you spend your most time with. Now, if those 5 encourage you, motivate you, talk you up, they're great. But if 1 or 2 are like, oh, you'll never achieve that, why don't you go down the pub and drink beer with us? Don't worry, one of the lads, get rid of them. Those people are absolutely toxic. Be very careful of the company you keep. In Arnold Schwarzenegger's book about bodybuilding, he actually says fitness isn't easy. Bodybuilding's not easy. You're going to have obstacles. You don't need another obstacle in the form of the company you keep. So if somebody discourages you from your fitness journey, maybe they're encouraging you to eat badly, maybe encouraging you to get pissed at the weekend, get rid of them. Ain't going to be good.
That's good advice. Social circle, so important, and I like that. Yeah, very powerful. Huh. Well, my last question would be, what are you most proud of along your fitness journey? Was it overcoming the first challenge you ever had early in life? Or if you had to choose one main milestone, what would that be?
I'd actually say it was winning gold for the UK at the Natural Universe in Hungary in October. It was, if you like, really sticking 2 fingers up at anyone who doubted me. When I was younger, he said, oh, he'd never walk again. It was doing my great trainer, Matt, proud, my clothing sponsor, Honor Athletic. Bit of a shameless plug, but thank you, Honor Athletic, for supporting me. It was doing them proud. It was doing my beautiful wife, Helen, proud. It was really special. The fact that both my parents are still alive to see me do it. I'd have been absolutely heartbroken if one of them wasn't around. And it's really nice that they'd see me do that. So that's what I'm most
Absolutely.
proud of. Doing my circle proud and just feeling very blessed to have it.
Definitely. And congratulations on, not
Thank
only
you.
that, but everything you've accomplished. And that is a blessing to have those close to you around to experience those accomplishments with you. I bet they're very proud of you.
Yeah, and I'm very proud of them. Keep your circle tight and close. That's what I always say. You know, I don't have that many in it, but those that are in it are great people.
Definitely. Well, I really appreciate you being on the podcast and sharing all of that value. It's going to be very helpful for many, and I learned a lot as well. If you want to share anything with the audience, any social, I'll post your social links, but if you want to share your website or where they can find you and follow you, feel free to mention that.
Sure. What I will say is go to my website, www.edakay.com. Follow me on Instagram at Ed Akay Model. And please check out my trainer's website, www.mwstrengthandperformance.com. He's been a great friend to me and a great trainer to me. And also check out my clothing sponsor, Honor Athletic, www.honorathletic.com. Use code ED10 for a 10% discount. So if you could
Awesome.
support these great independent brands, I'd much appreciate it.
Definitely. And I'm going to make sure to post those links as well.
Thank you.
Man, thank you, Ed. Seriously, this was very interesting. I really appreciate it. That was
And I
awesome.
really appreciate it too. Thank you so much, Jonathan.
You're welcome, Ed. I'll keep in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.